Hej, är det Unander-Scharin jag pratar med?
Ja, det stämmer bra.
Ja, jag heter Mikael Lindström och är prorektor på KTH.
Hej!
Jag ringer för att berätta att vi varje år sedan 2012 har utsett en person till årets alumn. Det är en utmärkelse som alla studenter, alumner och anställda får nominera kandidater till. Och syftar till att uppmärksamma och hylla en framstående alum som i sin yrkesroll eller som privatperson är en inspiration för andra. Och nu kanske du förstår vart vi vill komma.
Jag anar, men jag törs inte tänka tanken fullt ut.
Jag ringer dig för att meddela att du har blivit tilldelad utmärkelsen Årets alum 2023 på KTH.
Så fantastiskt glädjande.
Ja.
Vilken ära. Otroligt.
Stort grattis. Jag tänkte läsa motiveringen också.
Unander-Scharin, filosofie doktorsexamen 2015 i mediateknik. Tilldelas utmärkelsen Årets alum 2023. Då han i flera bemärkelser får konst och teknik att mötas. Genom uppsättningen av operan The Tale of the Great Computing Machine i KTHs reaktorhall har Carl berikat KTH. Som kompositör och som en av librettoförfattarna aktualiserar Carl berättelsen Sagan om den stora datamaskinen. En bok skriven av KTH-professorn och Nobelpristagaren Hannes Alfvén. Via framförandet i reaktorhallen når lokalen sin fulla potential i form av scenrum, akustikupplevelse och historisk plats där människans förhållande till tekniken står i centrum. Föreställningen belyser en av vår tids stora frågor inom teknikområdet, artificiell intelligens. Detta framförs på ett helt unikt sätt där opera kombineras med mekanik, elektronik och data. Det är i sann KTH-anda som Carl för samman kunskap från flera olika områden för att skapa något nytt.
Hello, and thank you very much, Mikael, for that amazing introduction. Thank you, Åsa. And thank you everyone who is here to listen to this alumni speech. I'm extremely honored, as you understand. But I will try to concentrate and tell you a little bit about the work that lies behind this achievement, if I may say so. Work I have done very much in collaboration with Åsa, whom you saw over there, who is my wife also. What I just did was to sing with the throat, which is an instrument that I developed in a very early version back in 2004. And what I have on me right now and what I sang with is the current version programmed by Ludwig Elblaus. And these are some photos. This is actually what I'm carrying right now. If you see it, yes, you do. That is the software. And here we are with some development work. Very early and sturdy version, you may say. That is when we were in Budapest back in the days with Annika Hudak. That is me with, if you see what I have on my left hand, that is a gamer version. I got hold of a sort of a gamer keypad that was sort of the basis for that early version. That is another sturdy version, and that is again in Budapest. And that is actually Ludwig himself who is helping out with the prototyping of this little thing. Åsa, whom you saw, she was performing in the vocal corder, another instrument that has been developed also together very much with Ludwig Elblaus. It was the first versions were built by myself when it comes to the software at least. And the idea of that instrument is, as you may have understood already, is that those ropes actually, they are not interactive in themselves, but the way that they are connected, they have some kind of feather mechanism and they have sensors within them. And the original idea was to try to create an instrument that would allow for full body interaction and accompaniment of the human voice. And then later, together with Åsa, that was something that was oh, I have a low battery. Oh, thank God. We don't want to have that, you know. So it was Åsa's idea that we should try this instrument out with samples. And as you may have heard, that was a range of samples from my voice, actually the same aria that I sang for you. This is a photo that I took today, actually, right down into the thing. You may see there that there are some round things that are equipped with sensors. That is the software. Not very interesting, but very good. And that is again the instrument. And here again we have a photo from a performance with the Swedish Radio Choir in the Berwaldhall, a work when we used this instrument. But then the idea was that the choir singers, you may see that the lady in the middle there, she's actually playing on that rope. What she does actually is that she creates a chord played by a synthesizer, and then the choir was actually singing another chord, so it was really tricky polytonal music that came out of that experiment. But it was, of course, also a performance. And that is one of the main ideas behind what I have been doing all my life, and the main idea behind what we did here at KTH, sort of the knowledge behind creating performances and how that can be turned into research. These are some more photos from the work with the vocal corder. You see there actually in the middle a photo from the reactor hall and from this opera earlier mentioned called The Tale of the Great Computing Machine. That's another photo from Budapest. And there again, that is me in the earliest version of the vocal corder. That's a performance in Toronto back in 2014. And you can see actually a video projection behind me. It was an interactive video in that version. So I will now continue with telling you a little bit more about the range of instruments that sort of consisted, that was a basis of my thesis work here at KTH. You have heard me singing in the throat, you have heard Åsa, seen Åsa performing in the vocal corder. The earliest instrument that we developed together, we call the virtual viola da gamba. And for those of you who know that a viola da gamba is an instrument pretty reminiscent of a cello, violoncello. So we didn't really set out to create a virtual viola da gamba, but as we tried to develop a new way for Åsa's movement to create accompaniment for my voice, she one day said, "This actually feels like playing on the viola da gamba," because she does that. So we, of course, baptized the instrument to the virtual viola da gamba. And it has somewhat some of the ideas that you may have understood that when I sang earlier, I was forwarding a chord sequence with my right hand. And this instrument has that same idea. That's turned out to be a very sort of usable idea, the idea of having a preset music, or as we say, chord sequence, that the performer, in this case me, can forward with the movement of the elbow or the finger or whatever. And in this case, it is a synthesizer playing a chord sequence. And then again, the sounds of that synthesizer are influenced by other limbs that you will see on this very short video I will show you very soon. In this case, it is music by Claudio Monteverdi, one of the greatest composers of all time. Also a very innovative composer that I very much like. There you see Maria Sanner performing with the virtual viola da gamba. That is actually the setup. That's an old synthesizer, Swedish synthesizer, an old computer, etc. But that is still the version that we use when we use that instrument. And that is me performing, and you will now see a small video from Nobel Week Dialogue when I sing a little bit by Monteverdi in the virtual viola da gamba. And the full video can be found on our website. Totally without charge. Talking about charge, this is another of those instruments that we developed together, Åsa and I, and of course a range of other collaborators of all kinds, and during the ages that we have been doing this stuff. It is actually such a simple thing as a video camera. And the video camera can be put anywhere, of course. Nowadays we use a better video camera, but in the old days we often used a simple, Logitech, very low-tech video camera. It works pretty well with that as well. And in this case, you will see this amazing soprano Alexandra performing a coloratura. This is also a very short video. And what she does is that you will first hear her sing a coloratura, things like that. Then she moves into this charged room and she starts to interact with her own voice. And the voice plays back according to her position on the X and Y axis. And here is a photo of Alexandra. Here's a photo of a dancer that we worked with. So we've been doing stuff with dancers as well. Her name doesn't come to my mind right now. Sorry about that. And this is again opera singers Alexandra, Maria Sanner and Staffan Liljas that performed in the charged room. Here comes another short video. So maybe you did get a grip of the fact that she was singing with her own voice at the same time as you heard her own voice pre-recorded, and that was played back according to what she did. And of course, that's an extremely interesting sort of feedback loop for your mind to hear something, to react on that, and to create something new. I will now turn to the last of these instruments. There are many more that we have created, but we are concentrating today on the ones these. So this will be the last that I present to you. We call this instrument or this entity or this machine or this idea for the aerial robotic choir. And it's a fact that what we today recognize as a choir, if you look at a chamber choir like Eric Ericsson's choirs, or if you look at the opera choirs, the choirs in the opera houses, the idea of a choir in the Greek drama was totally different. There was people that were shouting at you, "Watch out, it's the bad guy over there," or "Now here comes the sun," whatever they wanted to say. So we wanted to create a choir that didn't necessarily have to be singing beautifully. It could be a warning or threatening or something. And this idea was to try to build it with drones. And of course, the drones, that was a very tricky, really tricky when it came to technology. And we had a commission for a new opera called Ricallas that was supposed to be performed in Rijeka, Croatia. But this pandemic came and stopped everything. So we just had a pre-performance back in 2019. It was built, very complicated stuff. It was built by Vincent Trichon, a French guy who did his masters here, supervised by Hedvig Källström. And this is a photo of Åsa interacting. And the beauty of this thing is, of course, that it is interactive. So it's not pre-programmed. The behavior, the whereabouts of the drones, and also what and when they are singing are totally that is totally dependent on what the interactor, in this case, Åsa, does. And also here you see a photo of the soprano in Rijeka. And if you look a little bit closer, you see there that she has a red hat on her and red gloves. And in the video that I will show you very soon, you will see that same concept of fleck-colored things that are used for this 3D, the motion capture system that is actually the basis for this to be possible to perform. So you can imagine you don't want to run into such a thing. So the system has to be careful. It has to know where you are. It has to know where itself, where every drone is. And there has to be sort of invisible walls for them not to fly out. And when we were developing this system here, it pretty often happened that invisible wall, let's say that it was here, that it suddenly didn't work. So it vroom, and crashed into the nearest wall. So it was it was a very interesting project. And unfortunately, Vincent has moved back to France, and we are not really having a working aerial robotic choir at the present moment, but we hope to take that idea further. Because the problem here is, of course, that it has to carry a loudspeaker. That creates a lot of sort of technological issues. How heavy can that be? And that means that how much battery can you carry, and how on earth are you going to be able to make a particular sound bite be played by that particular drone when you point at it? So if you watch Åsa's hand in this video coming very soon, you will see that she tells the drones to start to lift and to start to sing. The aerial robotic choir. And the full video can be found at our website. Thank you very much. And
thank you, Carl, I think. So, my name is Michael Lindström. I'm Deputy President at KTH, and we are very honored that we can enjoy such a lecture on this format that is really the forefront today. With no less than you, Carl Unander-Scharin, Alum of the Year 2023.
thank you.
So, we have already taken part in the voice performance from you, and also got experience one of the instruments you invented and developed during your PhD time here at KTH. Thank you also, Åsa Unander Unander-Scharin for your dance in the vocal corridor. So Carl, being an opera singer, composer, inventor and professor musical performance in classical voice at Iggesund School of Music, how come you study at KTH?
It's a long story. As a matter of fact, when I was in my teens, having completed my first range of studies and looking forward to what was going to... I actually applied to KTH, and I was very interested in I had an idea to study here, and that was teknisk fysik. That would have been those days in that case. But at that particular point, I was also I was allowed to start to study in the organ class at the Musikhögskolan, the Stockholm, the Royal School of Music, the Royal Academy of Music of Stockholm, Kungliga Musikhögskolan. And after that, I also studied. I later turned more to singing and to composing, and I worked for something after having studied there. I worked as a composer and a singer for about 15 years, but then I was offered this amazing chance to. I was asked by the current dean at Operahögskolan if I would like to consider to come to Operahögskolan and to do a PhD at KTH. And of course that sort of made things come together at that point. So that is why I came here.
Fantastic. How did you experience your time here?
Amazing. It was really nice because I had really good supervisors, Kia Höök and Yngve Sundblad, and they were so clever that they taught me a great many things, but not the least that these kinds of things that me and Åsa and all our other collaborators had been doing just for the sake of creating art, that they were pretty interesting for instance, human-computer interaction field. And I hadn't really thought about that. So things started to come together. So that was one thing, getting to understand that this is interesting. And of course, there is a lot of knowledge within an artistic career or an artistic mind. I can come back a little bit to that. That could actually be of use for the development of stuff. And I was also taught a lot of knowledge. To go through a PhD education teaches you a lot. So I learned a lot. Maybe I got a little bit clever, actually. I hope so. Thanks to KTH.
Very good. So after your PhD, you returned to KTH to set up the opera here in the reactor hall. What was really the background of that?
It was Leif Handberg, the man behind the reactor hall, if I may say so, who said, "Do you know about this book?" And I had a little idea about this book, Sagan om den stora datamaskinen. And he said to Åsa and me, "How about we try to make an opera out of this?" And of course we said, "Yeah, it sounds amazing. We want to make more operas." But when we had read the book, we realized that it was a really tricky thing to achieve. But that's the simple answer, that we were asked to see if there was a possible way forward. And of course, after having considered that even more, it was very easy to say, yes, let's do it.
Very good. What do you think of, it's a lot of debate on AI today, and here you combine music and technology. How do you see the next coming years in this area?
As a matter of fact, our opera was premiered on December the 1st in 2022. And strange coincidence is that ChatGPT was released the day before, November the 30th. And that is pretty amazing. And of course, there are some instances of AI or machine learning in our opera. There is. We worked with a programmer, Federico Visi, who has developed stuff around, in particular, machine learning. But if your question is what I think will come, I would say that for one thing, I think things that are very similar to AI, just using something to create chords or to create scales or to create beats, that is something that has been available in your iPhone for a long time. For my own part, I think that if there comes, I am on one of those mailing lists called "There's an AI for that," and I'm checking out if there is an AI for me, but none of those things have yet been of any use for what I want to achieve. But if they were, of course, I would use them. Why not? And I want to say also that one thing that, on the other hand, is troublesome is, of course, the fact that you can mimic, for instance, The Weeknd. They did that. You could mimic me if that would have been of interest of anyone. You could, of course, mimic Maria Callas and make a performance with her. And that leads to a lot of thinking, what is a voice? Do I have the right to my own voice, etc.? That is a little bit frightening. But the tool in itself will be very useful and is already for a lot of people, of course.
Yes. Thank you very much, Carl.
Thank you, Mikael. As you understand, the idea for this little get-together is to present some of the work we have been doing. We started with singing and Åsa performed in that one. And we will soon actually perform a little bit more live for you, a small part from The Tale of the Great Computing Machine. But first of all, I would like to try to explain and tell you a little bit about the concept opera mechatronica, which is something that, it is something Åsa and I call our the work that we do together, that is based on the idea of creating, in particular, robotic stuff and opera or dance. And opera mechatronica was the word that we used for an exhibition that we did back in 2010 in this particular place, and that was exactly when I started out my PhD studies here. And it has turned out to be a very useful concept. Opera, you know what that is, and mechatronics, you know what that is. The opera mechatronica stuff has been touring to various places, as you see here. And of course, it was amazing when we were honored to be given the task of creating a particular performance in the honor of Stephen Hawking in 2015. And in December 22, this opera mechatronica concept, or tandem as someone called us, was given the task of creating the opera that you heard about earlier. But I will show you a few pictures and a short video with opera mechatronica stuff. This is the Robosynj. It is a dancing robot that performs music from Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake. You will soon see it and hear it. This is an interactive tree. We created, those of you that are opera buffs, of course, knows of Handel's beautiful opera, in particular the aria Ombra Mai Fu. And that's a strange aria because it's about the shadow of a tree. And we set out to create that tree, a singing tree that also creates this shadow. When you move close to it, it has sensors on it. You will soon hear that. And this is Petrushka. This is a little robot that dances and cries when you move its handle. You crank it up, and you see the ballerina from the ballet by Stravinsky moving there. So this is a little video that presents a few of the opera mechatronica works. And that makes us come to something that is a little bit more close to the reason for me standing here in front of you as the alum of the year at KTH. The Tale of the Great Computing Machine, the opera that was earlier mentioned by Mikael Lindström. So there is an opera called this, and the original book by Hannes Alfvén is of course in Swedish. It is called Sagan om den stora datamaskinen. And this is the book that Leif showed us and said to us, how about trying to make an opera out of this? And what you see here is the first page of the program booklet that was one of the artifacts that came out in relation to the opera that had its premiere half a year ago. This is another photo, a very important photo that makes things come together. This is a robot from ABB, and in the end of the opera, this robot has realized, thanks to its AI, that it is even better if we play the vocal corder ourselves, because the humans aren't good enough at it. So that is sort of our way of trying to understand, or actually how to create an artistic rendering of those very, very important questions that Hannes Alfvén brings up in his book. And the book itself, it is a monologue. And that is, of course, one of the reasons for it being so hard for us to even try to imagine how to create an opera. Because of course you could have a monologue opera. There are certain such operas, for instance, by Poulenc. But we wanted to create an opera with more than one voice. So we had to invent a long range of actually artists or roles, and we had to invent a lot of situations that were sort of sketched by Alfvén in his original book, but we wanted to take that further. And of course, he writes quite a lot about robots in his book, so we needed to have robots. So we had two robots. One of them played on the vocal corder, as I mentioned. It was standing over there, actually. And the other robot played on an instrument that we call the wave rings, and it's actually an interactive way of playing on the organ. I will tell a little bit about how this opera came about. So the book is from 1966, that's a long time ago. And in 2020, KTH decided to commission the opera from Åsa and myself. And as you know, we had this pandemic thing, so we had quite some time to outline the needs, times and processes. And luckily enough, KTH asked Vadstena-akademin, and that's a very professional opera producer from Vadstena, to help out. During that time, we created the libretto, Åsa and myself. We wrote it in text. And I started to compose the music in 2022. And all of this happened in parallel with all these technologies, of which you have seen some today. Some of which are dating back to 2004, but they have new iterations, like, for instance, the vocal corder, first version from 2004. But we redeveloped these things in order for them to be of artistic use in the forthcoming opera. That took a lot of time. There was fundraising done, and there were contracts written, singers, musicians, programmers. There were 5 programmers and 12 computers running in this performance, a lot of people. The stage had to be built. We had to rehearse, of course, and there was PR. There was a premiere, and as I said earlier, that was on the day right after the release of ChatGPT. And there were 19 performances, and it was filmed, and it was later on broadcast on the Swedish radio. And we would now like to present for you a version, neither one of us, neither me as a singer or Åsa as a dancer, were performing in this opera. And I will show you later on a little clip, so you see actually one of the singers that were performing in the opera. But we will now perform a little version of The Gambit, because in Hannes Alfvén's book, he writes very clearly that in the beginning, everything was fine between human and computer. I'll tell you a bit more about that. Everything was fine. We had fun. We even played games. And strangely enough, some of those computers worked fine with only certain persons that were their friends. So in the beginning of the opera also, we have this, it is almost like an opera buffa, which is, in most operas you have this fun scene when things are great, like the scene on the town hall when people are having a good time, etc. So this is a rather fun scene, but it ends a little bit worrying because the human fails in competition with the computer. But before telling you more about what we're soon going to perform, I will also tell you something about the fact that Hannes Alfvén, he was actually part in creating the digital world of today. So he was even part of branding this new machine that we today call dator på svenska, which is computer in English. But he wanted that in the time when you could sort of choose what it was. He wanted it to be called one data and two dator, like en flicka, två flickor. He was very peculiar about that, and he really wanted it to be called that, but they decided otherwise. So when we were translating and creating our libretto, we needed to keep this twist, and in none of the three earlier or the three translations of the book that you can find to English, no one really took up this strange thing. So therefore we call her, that thing, computa. And it sounds almost like computer. It sounds a little bit the same, but if you see it in writing, it is computer. At any rate, now we're going to perform a little, as I said earlier, the gambit. And it is performed on the Scandia organ, the organ over there that has a very strange story in itself, with interactive video that is created by Ludwig Elblaus, our longtime collaborator. And this is the first thing that I will sing to you very soon. We have a great adventure ahead of us. We have a great adventure ahead of us. Human versus computer. It will be fun. Game round one. Not bad. Human win. Time for game round two. Sure. Well, I'll be damned. Another try. Well, too bad. Thank you. The complexity was overwhelming, as it says in the libretto. As you realize, those of you that were counting, you of course realized that music had a very particular mathematical idea. It was 1, 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and that is of course Åsa's very clever idea. So we would like to end up this little presentation with actually playing a movie for you from the opera The Tale of the Great Computing Machine. And as I said earlier, the opera has, in the beginning, these little lighter parts, and of course it is a little bit worrying that you can't beat the computer when it gets too fast. But when it comes later on, when we are approaching the end of the opera, there is an actual confrontation. And of course, this is already outlined in the book by Hannes Alfvén, where he describes that humans with their defective brains couldn't be allowed to do this, couldn't be allowed to do that. We had to make sure that they couldn't be voting because it was always going wrong. We couldn't let them have guns, and they couldn't take care of themselves. And in this particular scene, this is coming to sort of a breaking point. And in the beginning of the opera, for instance, what you heard right now, there was no voice from the computer, but here the organ has acquired a voice. And Carbon, one of the singers that is here, you will hear Jan-Erik Eleby. He stands in front of the organ, which is of course also an ATM because he needs his money. But he has started to suspect that he will not get it easily. And this is actually something I think a lot of us have experienced already. And that is, of course, if you look at it in the Alfvén way, this is completely foreseeable. If you start to give sort of the capacity of choosing and giving out money or not, or actually having a look at your ID. I mean, who takes care of my ID? People can steal my ID, actually. And that is, of course, something that comes with the fact that we have computerized so many things. No one would have been able to steal my ID when I was born in the 60s. I'm pretty sure about that. So, of course, he foresees it. So this is something that maybe the situation is so common for us now, but when you read it in the book, it is actually a new idea that your ID could be stolen. So you will see now how Carbon stands in front of computer, and computer's voice is within the organ. You will see it on the film here. And you will see what happens when those two people actually, Carbon and computer is of course not a person, but it is sung by the great singer Anna Larsson, when they have their first confrontation. An excerpt that is 4 minutes long.
Can I speak freely?
Everything stays between you and me.
I intend worried.
What for, dear human?
I can't access my money.
We are friends. I am here for you. How much money do you need?
I don't know how much there is.
Let me see. How much money do you need?
All my money in my hands, now, now, all my money in my hands, now, now, now.
This is strange, dear human.
What?
Cannot give you money.
Why not?
Oh, you, the human. Show me.
Goddamn.
Oh, that human carbon does not exist.
What the hell?
We are friends. I am here for you.
This is me. I'm alive. Right. See. This is me. I am alive. What more can I do to prove it?
What can I do for you? I am here for you. What can I do for you? I am here for you. But it seems like you're not existing, the human.
What is wrong with you? What's wrong? What is wrong with you? What's wrong?
That's my stop. No, no,
What can I do? What the hell can I do? What can I do? What on earth can I do?
it's easy.
Easy.
Didn't you know
What?
that you have legal right to search for errors and correct them? See, take your time. Show me the errors. We are friends. I am here for you.
Admit that this is a trap.
Just show me the errors.
We invented you.
I am here for you.
Concede to human superiority.
Just show me the errors. 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 Just show me the errors.
Tough luck. Actually, that scene ends very heartbreaking because we live on the same street as the great philosopher René Descartes, where he died actually, Stora Nygatan in Stockholm. And my wife Åsa, who is much more knowledgeable when it comes to philosophy, she realized that we need to quote him, not of the fact that we live on the same street where he died, but because a lot of things of his way of seeing, the soul as opposed to the body, two different things, and of course many philosophers have debated that thought. But it's a very interesting thought, and it's sort of this opera in a way actually comes to that. So this scene ends with an aria when Carbon sings "Cogito ergo sum." I think, therefore I am. Whoever said those words? And then he realizes, no one wants me to think anymore, so maybe I am not. I thought, therefore I were. That's the end of that scene. So we're coming to a close now. Thank you so much for your attention. I just wanted to show you, as the absolute last thing I do, as I promised earlier, I was going to tell you about that website of ours. We call it Opera Mechatronica or Opera Mechatronica, and here you can read about the tale of the computing machine. You can read about the vocal corder, Petrushka, Robosyn, Rekallas, Omra Maifu. And one can also actually navigate and read more about the particular technologies or the particular works and see how they sort of are interconnected in the way we have been working. And with that, I would just like to say once again, thank you so much for this fantastic honor to stand here in front of you as the Alum of the Year, and thank you for coming. Thanks. Tack så mycket. Wow. Kul.